Hey, Canucks fans, some relatively major off-ice news today as assistant general manager Derek Clancy has left the club and has gone to the Toronto Maple Leafs to be their assistant general manager. When you look at the timing of the move, it looks a little bit funky, but I'm not suggesting there's anything funky. But it happened just after the Canucks released their video last week, which I've talked about quite a bit on this channel, of the behind-the-scenes look at their draft, and Derek Clancy was a key figure in it. I'm not saying it has anything to do with that at all. I think it has everything to do with the fact that Derek Clancy saw a good opportunity in Toronto to work with his old running mate, Brad Treliving, who he played with in the ECHL many, many years ago, and who he served under in Calgary for half a season. And I'll get to that in a second. So there's some familiarity there. I don't think it has anything to do with the Canucks' performance at the draft last month, and everything to do with a good opportunity to work in an organization, and more importantly, with someone that he feels very comfortable with. So Clancy came to the Vancouver Canucks in December 2021. Now, prior to that, he did 14 seasons in Pittsburgh, in the Pittsburgh organization, a lot of scouting, player personnel type things. So he worked with Jim Rutherford, with Patrick Alvin. So there's a relationship there. So no surprise that even though Clancy started the 2021-2022 season with the Calgary Flames, when Rutherford came to the Vancouver Canucks in 2021, his very first hire out of everyone, anywhere, was Derek Clancy. Pulled him from Calgary, brought him one province west of Vancouver, to British Columbia is the province. I know my geography. Vancouver's the city that the team's in. And he became the assistant general manager for the Vancouver Canucks. Then, at that time, I think Stan Smeel was AGM at the time, but then as soon as they brought in Cammy Granato and Emily Castonguay, then Smeel was moved from AGM, and now he's the vice president of hockey operations. So, and then there's Ryan Johnson as well. So what generally how the Canucks worked was Jim Rutherford was the president, Stan Smeel was the vice president, Patrick Alvin was the general manager, and then Derek Clancy, Emily Castonguay, and Cammy Granato were the assistant GMs. And then Ryan Johnson was the general manager of the Abbotsford Canucks. So Clancy was here for basically a year and a half, from December 2021 to today, basically. And then we saw the video that I talked about, the one that last week, the behind-the-scenes video of the draft, and one of the Patrick Alvin had a couple exchanges, one with director of scouting Todd Harvey, one was with Derek Clancy, AGM, and both had to do with trading down in the draft, waiting to see what St. Louis did, and then waiting to see, trying to guess what Buffalo was going to do. And I broke that all down last weekend in my vlogs. But then, so it was quite, again, I don't think even though I've said it for the third time now, I don't think it has anything to do with the draft timing. But it still was a surprise, just because we didn't hear much about this. But not that we have to hear anything about anything. This regime under Jim Rutherford and Patrick Alvin they're a lot better, at least, at keeping secrets or keeping their sources close, because unlike under Jim Benning, where everyone seemed to know about everything that was going to happen before it happened, this regime is being a little bit closer to the vest. So quite a surprise when we heard that Clancy left. But right away, the Toronto Maple Leafs announced that they hired him as their assistant general manager in player personnel. So that's his title, especially with Toronto, assistant GM, player personnel, whereas here it was more like assistant GM, is more not director of scouting, but it had more of a scouting feel. And I know scouting and player personnel are quite similar, but here I think Cammy Granato started to get more involved in the scouting as well. Now, why Toronto? Well, if we look at Toronto just itself as a team, you could argue they're further ahead in their development, and they're closer to winning a Stanley Cup than the Canucks are, so that's fair. But then you look at the history between Derek Clancy and Brad Treliving, who was named the new general manager of Toronto back in May, taking over from Kyle Dubas. Now, although Clancy had 14 years of experience with Rutherford in Pittsburgh, he also went back even further with Brad Treliving, playing with him in the ECHL, and then went to Pittsburgh, and then was with him for the first 3 months of the 2021-2022 season, when Treliving was still the GM of Calgary. So obviously some familiarity between Clancy and Treliving. A lateral move in position, who knows about pay, is none of our business. But it sounds like the feeling was mutual. He wasn't fired or let go by the Vancouver Canucks. It sounded like he asked for an opportunity to move, and Rutherford Alvin granted him that opportunity. How is this going to affect Vancouver Canucks on the ice? Well, back in June, firstly, I don't think that much, quite frankly. Back in June, they promoted Ryan Johnson to assistant to the GM. So what's interesting is maybe it's semantics, or maybe they just couldn't fit it on their webpage. But Castonguay and Granato, they are called assistant general manager. Assistant general manager. But Ryan Johnson is assistant to the general manager. Now, I think we're talking about the same general manager, Patrick Alvin, but it's weird that Ryan Johnson is assistant to the general manager, and then Castonguay and Granato are assistant general managers. Maybe it's nothing. Maybe it's like alternate associate assistant captain. It means all the same thing. Maybe the way they abbreviate it, it just says, instead of, they didn't want to say assistant GM, so they said assistant to the, no, that doesn't make any sense. Regardless, on the Canucks website right now, for Ryan Johnson, has got a big list. It says assistant to the GM, and it actually is abbreviated to GM, not general manager. So maybe that's why. And they didn't want it to say assistant GM, but that doesn't make sense. It says assistant to the GM, and he's also the general manager of the Abbotsford Canucks. So it says all that under Ryan Johnson, where it's under Castonguay and Granato, it says assistant general manager. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing. That now we have 3 AGMs still in Castonguay, in Granato, in Ryan Johnson, and then they hired another guy just last, the same time they promoted Ryan Johnson, they also hired a guy, I can't remember his name right now, but he's their new director of player personnel. So maybe he's going to do a lot of what Clancy used to do, because Jim Rutherford even said in a press release today that as of right now, they aren't going to replace Derek Clancy, rather fill from within. And he mentioned that guy's name, who I should have looked up before I started recording this vlog. So that's all about Derek Clancy. Once again, leaving the Vancouver Canucks assistant GM position and moving to the Toronto Maple Leafs assistant GM position. Also, a couple of things. The Canucks released their season, their tickets for single game tickets. That's what I was trying to say. None of their packs or ice packs or anything like that. So if you struck out and you want me to send you our ticket list, we have tickets in 2 or 3 different locations. Just send me an email, canuckclay@gmail.com. That's canuckclay@gmail.com. And once we finalize those lists, it'll be over the next couple of weeks. As soon as I get back from Peru, basically, then I can send that out to you. So again, canuckclay@gmail.com if you want me to send you our ticket list once it's done. Finally, don't forget, I'm not live streaming tonight, working on my paper for my master's, but I am live streaming tomorrow night, 10 p.m. So my next live stream this week, my only other live stream this week, will be this Wednesday at 10 p.m. I hope you can join me then. Okay, friends. Thanks for watching. As always, shout out to my sponsors, Van Seat Experts Real Estate, Perform and Transform Personal Training Weight Loss. Thank you, legendary Lucas Gates, legendary Carol Bovenlander, legendary Andrew Chang. Thanks for your support as always. Thanks to Hall of Fame and franchise members as well. And thanks to all of you for watching, subscribing. Always appreciate you. Never take you for granted. So, subscribe, like the video, become a member, upgrade your membership, and leave a tip if you want to. And make sure you leave a comment down below. Tell me if this Derek Clancy thing surprised you, if you even care, if it doesn't make a difference to you and your everyday fandom of the Canucks. Let me know that as well. And don't forget to email me, canuckclay@gmail.com, if you want me to add you to my ticket list for this upcoming season. Okay, friends, have a great day. Enjoy the sunshine. Stay safe, stay healthy, take care of yourselves, and take care of each other. God bless, and go Canucks go.